Hi guys, welcome to learntocreategames.com. Today we'll have a look at drag and drop. So let's get started. So first we have a blank project and the game is in 2D mode, which means that we will only use the 2D features. There are only two objects, so a main camera and the light. And what we will do really is to create an object that will be able to move across the screen, so to drag it and drop it. So the first thing we do is that we create a canvas. This canvas basically will contain the other elements, the other 2D elements that we will be using in our project. So then I create an image. So this image is very small, and again you can use any sprite of your choice. So for this particular example, I've got a few sprites that are already included in Unity. So I just need to click on the corresponding sprite, and you should see it appearing there. So if you press the Shift and F, you should see that this sprite is, we zoom in on the sprite. Now I'm going to move it to the right. Once the sprite is there, what I really need to do at this stage is to start to create a script and also to create events. But first we will create a script. And this script basically will be launched whenever the user is dragging this object. So it's going to be a C# script, and we will rename it manage drag and drop. Now you can rename it any name that you wish. And again, just to bear in mind that if you give it this particular name, the name of the class within this file will be the exact same. So once this is done, what we will do is create a new function called drag. And again, this function will be called whenever we want to drag the object. So the principle will be fairly simple. Whenever we drag this object, the position of the object will become the position of the mouse. So first, let's create this function. So again, it's a void type, which means it will be accessible from wherever we are in the project. And then I will access a game object called image, which is in fact the one we have just created a few seconds ago. So again, game_object.find image. Then I will access its transform. Remember, its transform gives access to position, scale, and rotation. In this case, I choose the position. I'm going to say that the position will be equal to the position of the mouse. So again, for the position of the mouse, we use the input class and then type mouse position. And what we do as well is we write a small little message that says that we're dragging the mouse. So that's it. It's very simple. I just need to save the script. And again, before that, I'm going to write a small little comment that just says that we store the position of the mouse and we transfer it then to the position of the image. So once this is done, you just need to save your file. And then we will start to first try and make sure that there are no errors in the console window, to make sure that we have no errors in our script. And once this is done, then we'll be able to look at events. So again, you can see that image here corresponds to the object image in the hierarchy, so we're okay. So once this is done, then I'm going to create an empty object. And this empty object will be used for me to attach the script that I've just created. And we will see why later on. So again, we know that there are no errors because the console window is still blank. And again, I take this script and add it to my empty object. So the script becomes a component of my empty object. Then we're going to take care of the events. So we're going to click on the image. And as you can see, there are no events attached to this image. So we're going to create a new component for this image in order to be able to detect events. So again, it's going to be event trigger. Okay, so again, if you go to event trigger, we're going to try to see what could trigger an event to happen in relation to our button or to our image. And this one will be a drag. So again, in case the object is dragged, so in a drag event, then what I need to do is to specify a function that will be called. So in our case, I'll drag and drop this object, and I will access the function that is a component of this object. And this function is drag, and that's it. So again, that's the reason why we choose an empty object. And again, you can see that this function drag is the same as the one that is in the script. So when this is done, I just need to play. Now there might be a small issue in terms of Z-axis, but we can see that later. So again, I should be able to, whenever I click on the button, I should be able to drag it around the screen. Okay, so that works perfectly. So at this stage, my dragging script works perfectly. What I'd like to do now is to start to create some kind of placeholder on which I will drag and drop my object. And I'd like my object to snap to my placeholder. In other words, if I'm very close to this object, the one that I'm dragging will actually be superimposed perfectly on this object. So for this purpose, I'm going to create a brand new object, a brand new image. And for this particular image, you will see this image will be used as a placeholder. So again, I just click on the canvas, create a new image, so UI and image. It's going to be a white square. I'm going to move this square slightly to the left, and I might also rename it later on. So again, I'm going to zoom in there using Shift plus F. And when this is done, I'm going to call it placeholder, because it's going to be a placeholder on which I will drag and drop objects. Okay, so that's done. So once this is done, I've renamed my object. I will need again to create a new function called drop. And again, this function will be called whenever I will drop my object. So again, it's the same principle. You create functions, and these functions then are called whenever an event happens. So it could be drag or drop. Now, the name of the function doesn't have to be drop. I could have used a different name, but for this purpose, I use drop. But again, you can choose any name of your choice. Now, in this particular example, I'm going to look for an object called placeholder. So again, the idea is that I will try to look how far or close I am from this object. So again, now I forgot actually to put the type of this object. It could be game object. The console window will let me know about that, I'm sure. And then I'm going to calculate the distance between the placeholder and the image that I'm dragging and dropping. So again, we use a static function called distance, again from the class called vector3. So again, vector3.distance will give me a distance between two positions. So the first parameter is the position of my object. So again, it's going to be GameObject.find image.transfer.position. And the second object will be the placeholder. So again, ph1.transform.position. So again, once this is done, we check that this distance is less than 50. Okay, now we can use a different distance, even 25, but in my case, I'm just going to check for a distance of 50. And if this distance is less than 50, then I will snap my object onto the placeholder. So again, I'm going to say the position of my object is the same as the position of the placeholder. Now, the effect will be more dramatic if you use a placeholder that is a little bit bigger, but for this example, you will see that it will snap properly. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to make sure that those positions are the same. And that's pretty much it. So once my script has been saved, we check the console window. Now we have a few errors. And the one that I mentioned earlier on is that my object ph1, the type has not been described or defined. So again, I just need to type GameObject just before ph1. And then the second error is that the distance is misspelled. So again, it should be distance instead of distance. Okay, so again, if I go back to my console window, one or two errors should be gone, and the last one is about distance. Again, it's always good to go through these errors, because if you come across the same errors, then you know what the issue is. So if you save this, which is done now what we need to do is to create a new event for my button. So again, what I will need to do is to go back to my, sorry, not my button, but the image. So in this particular case, the first thing is when I drag and drop my image, you can see that it's behind the square. So what I need to do is to change the order in which these objects are rendered. So what I will do is move the image lower in the hierarchy. The lower it is in the hierarchy, the later it will be rendered. So in other words, the last one in the hierarchy is rendered last, which means that it is rendered on top of all the other objects. So in this case, if I move my object now, you can see it's actually on top of the square. So that's one thing done. The next thing I need to do is to start to create an event, and this event will be used to drop my object. In this particular case, what I'm doing is associating the function called drop whenever I drop my object. So again, it's quite similar to what we've done before, but again, whenever I'm dropping my object, this object should snap to the placeholder. So that's it, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. Again, if you want to know more about Unity, please check the website www.learntocreategames.com. See you. Bye.